So we're going to look at a basic lighting setup in Vectorworks 2025. Vectorworks does have a lot of professional lighting instruments built in, um, but I'm going to look at just the basic light sources that we can put in for architects and interior designers, not electrical um, lighting engineers. Right, so this is my building here. I'll just rotate into 3D so you can get an idea of what we're looking at. So I've got an interior space here that I want to get some images from. And to do that, I'm going to need to put some lights in. At the moment, it looks quite bright, but once we put one light source in, that's going to really change the amount of light in there. So to start off with, I'm going to go over to left-hand side, my tool sets here. Just open that up. And this tool set called the visualization tool set is what we're going to be using for two things. One, for placing a camera so we can get a good position within the model, and our light sources here. So let's click on the light tool itself, this light bulb, and up on the top left, our control bar, which has all the options for whatever tool we've selected. We've got some options. So the first option here is called a direct light mode, which is very good for a sun that you would put outside your building. And then we've got another couple of lights that we'll be putting in, a point light mode and a spotlight mode. So let's just start off with the sun. I'm going to click just outside my building. Doesn't really matter where. If you imagine this is an infinitely long light source that is going to go in one direction only that you specify, just like the sun, because of the distance it is away from the earth. So I'm going to click here, and it's asking me if I want to change any of the preferences. Usually the only thing I do here would be to tick on soft shadows, which will help with the reality of our imagery. It does increase render time slightly, but I think it's worth the trade-off. Everything else I normally leave exactly as it is. We can increase the brightness. Incidentally, whenever you see a numerical field, a percentage in Vectorworks with a slider like this, that doesn't necessarily mean that that is as high as it will go. Often you can actually type in and increase that value. If I just do that to accept that, you can see that it hasn't defaulted back to 100. It will take that 300% and be 3 times as powerful. I don't want to do that though. I'm going to set that back to 100. Normally leave my sun at brightness 100, and we could apply color. Sometimes that might be useful if you wanted to get an effect like a sunset or a sunrise. Again, I'm going to leave that at white. So I'm just ticking on soft shadows, and I'm going to leave everything else as it is and go OK. And we can see that our sun, which looks like an arrow pointing away from my building, is here. We've got on the object info palette over here on the shape tab, we do have options and settings we can adjust. Now, I'm not going to do that straight away. Let's now think about going inside the building and seeing how it looks. So back over to the visualization tool set, I'm going to pick up the Renderworks camera tool. Now the operation is fairly simple. It's 2 clicks. I'm going to come up to the top right interior space of my building. I'm going to click there to anchor the camera, and then I can draw a line and just sort of point where I want to look. So I want to look along down here, this main sort of area. Just going to click to place that camera, and you see we get this sort of cone shape for the camera. We can move that around in top plan view if we want to. We can grab that and move that. We can also change the angle slightly by coming to this middle blue vertex, and when we get the diagonal cursor, we can click and actually just rotate that around a bit if that's what we want to do. However, easiest thing to move the camera is to go inside the camera and do it from there. On the object info, there's a button called Activate Camera View. So let's click there and we go inside our camera view. Now you will see 4 little blue corners marked on the screen. That signifies we are actually inside the camera at the moment. Now, to see exactly what we're looking at the moment, it's in wireframe. The render style is wireframe up here. Normally when we're in 3D view, we will go to shaded, and that gives us a better idea about what we're looking at. Now, when we're in the camera, we can actually use the middle mouse button to pan, and because we're inside the camera, we're actually moving the camera itself. So just worth bearing in mind that that's what's happening. You can also use the fly around or orbit tool while you're in there as well. And again, that is repositioning the camera as we do so. I'm going to leave it about there. And then because I'm not actually going to take a viewport straight away, I'm going to deactivate the camera view. So now we're outside of the camera. We're just literally sitting where our camera is and looking into our model. Now, the first thing you'll notice is it's actually very dark inside. Now, that's because we've placed a sun object outside. Now, there's 2 reasons for that. One is that the sun object itself is not pointing inside the building, so it's not getting any light into our building. And the other thing is, once you place one light source in Vectorworks, Vectorworks decides to say, okay, we're going to play with light sources now. So we have to use light sources for every aspect of lighting. Just to point that out to you, I'm going to go to the window menu and palettes, and I'm going to bring open a pretty useful little dialog called lights. So it's a collapsible palette here, and we can access our lights from here. So I can't actually see where that sun light is at the moment, but I can come here, I can right click on that light and go select on document. Now that means that now over on my object info, I have that light selected so I can make changes to it. Just going to scroll down a small way. Just bunch the navigation palette down a bit. And we've got 2 sliders, one called azimuth and one called elevation. So the azimuth is actually the rotation of that light. So I'm just going to move that around, and then hopefully we'll start to see, here it comes, that directional light coming into play and actually coming into our building. So the azimuth is just the rotation of that light, and then underneath there we have the elevation. So if you were to move this around to about 0, then your sunlight would be almost like a sunrise or a sunset. It would be almost horizontal. If I take this up further towards 90 degrees, then you'll notice that it's getting a lot higher in the sky as though it was midday. So it's up to you where you place that. I'm going to have it around about there. So we've got sunlight coming in, but it's not like a sunset exactly. Let's see if I can just position myself a bit further back. So just scroll back slightly. And so I can see this window over here. Now, if I were to actually delete this light, we can have a look and see. This is Vectorworks' default lighting. It's like an ambient lighting. Because there's no light sources, it's bright and we can see everything. Let's just undo that, get that light back. Just scroll, and then as soon as we put one light source in, we need to start using lights to light the scene all around. So we need to put some more lights in just to bring up the values inside our building. I'm going to use a point light to start off with. So back to the light tool itself, click on the light bulb, and the second light source is a point light mode. Now think of this as just as a tennis ball. It's a round light that will actually cast light in every direction. Now there's just one click with this, so you can do this in a 3D view. I tend not to. I tend to do it in top plan and then just reposition the height. Let's just put one in and see how that goes anyway. So I'm just going to click once. So I get my light preferences up again. I'm not going to do anything too much at this point because I can change these afterwards. So I'm just going to click on soft shadows. Go OK. And you can see we've got a light there, pretty much in the ceiling, but it is casting some light in that area back there. Now, if I go to my pointer tool and have a look at the control bar here and actually change the option that we're on, this fourth option in called transform mode is really useful for moving objects from a perspective view like we're in at the moment. So I'm going to click on that. And now my selected object, my light, has these arrows that I can just click on and move that object in one axis at a time. So that's really quite useful. It means we can be quite accurate about placing things in a perspective view. Otherwise, I would go back into top plan view and move it from above. In fact, let's go into top plan now and see where our light is. So just to get some more light in here, I'm going to dot a couple of these point lights around. With that selected, on the object info, you'll see that we have a Z figure here. Now, depending on which of my design layers this is on, so I'm on the ground floor here. So this is almost 3 meters high from the floor. If I was to just place one in on this layer straight away, you'll notice it comes in at level Z, 0. So it's actually in the floor almost. So it's a good idea to raise that up. I'm going to put in 3000 there. It's 3000 millimeters, 3 meters. And then I might actually just use the control key to get the plus and then just copy some of these lights around. So I don't have to worry about the height. I've already set that for in here. And then perhaps one up near our camera. Now let's go back in and have a look what changes that has made. So select the camera, to activate camera view, switch the render back to shaded mode. And there we can see that's made quite a difference to the amount of light within our scene. Now these light sources here, we don't necessarily have to switch on the shadows. They have shadows switched on by default, but actually we can select these and turn cast shadows off. So we might just decide to use these just to fill the area with light, but not to be specific about casting specific shadows, which may look a bit strange if it's not actually embedded in a light fixture. So let's have a look at the third type of light tool we have, which is a spotlight. So I'm going to click on this one. Now this one takes 2 clicks, so let's try and place it in here and see what happens. We click there, tick on soft shadows, and go OK. And now I need to angle the end of this spotlight so it points in the direction I want it to point to. Now it's hunting around and snapping to objects, so let's just click there and see what happens. Now it doesn't make a lot of sense from this view, so if we look from top plan view, you'll see that actually we've placed it near one of the tables, but our second click has taken us to the back of a chair on another table, so it's off at a bit of an angle. And this isn't, I could spend some time trying to adjust this and get this correct, get the there, but it's not the easiest thing to do to be accurate. So I'm going to delete that and start again. So I like to place the spotlights from top plan view to begin with. Let's get my light. And I'm going to come to this table here. I want it to be directly above this table. So I'm going to click on the center of the table first, and then I'm just going to pull to the side. So snapping to 90 degrees and click to place that. And then to make sure there's points down at the table, I'm going to take advantage of the options we have on the object info here. If I scroll down, and we've got two sliders here. One is called pan. So if you were to grab that and wind that round, it's like a rotation of that spotlight. Doesn't really matter where I leave that for now. And then tilt. So that's obviously angling the spotlight. If I go all the way up to 90 degrees, I've pointed that spotlight directly downwards towards that table. Now, let's go back into the camera. Select the camera and go to activate camera view. And then let's click on shaded so we can see what's happened to our lighting. Now, I did say if you bring in one of these lights, it will come in at level 0, depending on which layer you're on and what level that layer is set to. So I've actually put that spotlight down into the floor, which isn't the best thing to do. Right, I've managed to grab that there. So quite easily over on the object info, I'm going to change the Z value there up to 3 meters. And now we can see it shining down on that table. So let's just have a look at some of these settings we've got on the light here. So we can switch these lights on and off temporarily. We've got car shadows and soft shadows, which I would normally have on. The brightness, like I say, can go above 100. Make that brighter if we need to. We do have a color, so we could specify these are just currently colors in this document. You can see that's making a change there. We also have the custom colors, so we can be specific there. We can use the picker. And there's also many more palettes. If we click on active document, go to other palettes, there's many more palettes that we can choose from. And we have all these different colors available to us. Now let's put that back to in fact, I'm going to give it a nice warm, sort of just off-white, yellowy glow. Now, just underneath there, we have something called distance fall off. Now, there are 3 values here. One is none. So if I click on none, you'll see that light does get a bit brighter and a bit stronger. If I go to smooth, it gets a bit more subtle. And if I go to realistic, it gets even subtler still. So it's really just 3 different grades of the value of that light, the strength of that light. Leave that at smooth. Smooth is quite a good one to use until you get familiar with all these settings. Now, to look at one of these point lights, it might make more sense if we set the distance fall off on our point light to none. You notice that makes a huge difference. And that's because it's the decay value of the light as it gets further and further away from the light source itself. And if there's no decay value, then it's going to get very, very bright. Particularly if you have more than one light source, if they are set to none, it's going to really multiply up and overblow the light values in your scene. So it's a good idea to have at least smooth or possibly realistic set on these values. Now, let's just switch off all of these lights, which we can do on the visualization palette here, the lights palette, just by ticking where it says on. Switch these all off. And then make sure we've got our spotlight on, so we can have a look at how the settings on the spotlight actually work. So we have something called a spread and a beam, and this is represented with these cones here. We can adjust it by typing in different values. So if I type in a higher value for the spread, put in 120, just see how that changes this spotlight. That's made the overall spread, the cone of influence, much wider. Now the beam is actually the hot point in the middle, so it's like another cone. If I make that much wider, let's put that to 100, you'll notice that actually it's increased that light value, and these two cones have gotten a lot closer together. Now if I was to actually grab and adjust these cones like so, bring the beam right down, and then bring the spread down as well. Now, the closer these two cones get to each other, that's going to affect how fuzzy the edge of this light actually looks. So you can see with these two cones quite close together, we get a disc of light, almost like a theatre spotlight. It's quite a hard, harsh disc of light. The further away these two are from each other, then the softer that gradient will become. So you can choose exactly the effect that you want based on the type of light you are trying to represent. Now, this is all very good, but it's a light source. It's not actually attached to any light fixture itself. These light sources, when they are rendered in a viewport, will be invisible. You'll see the effect of the light, but you won't see any actual light fixture itself. So it might be an idea to bring in a light fixture and actually put this light source inside. I'm going to delete this one spotlight. And we can switch back on our white lights and our sun, or direct light. And I'm going to bring open the resource manager. So on window palettes and resource manager. And in here, I've actually got a symbol or a pendant light, this one here. So I'm going to right click on that and edit the 3D component so we can see that light. So we've got a light fixture, starts up with a rose at the top and a cable running down. I've got a lampshade, a light bulb, and I've actually put one of these spotlight sources into this symbol. And you see I've set the brightness to 200. Just giving it that warm color and just adjusted the beam and the spread as if it was actually coming from this light bulb up here. Now I'm going to go into top plan view to place these pendants in here. Now there is actually a ceiling here over most of these tables, and that's on my design layer called 3D Walls First Floor. So I'm going to select that as the active layer before I place these pendants, because there is an elevation value on that layer. So I'm going to double click to make the pendant active, and then just come to my tables and actually place that in the center of these tables. Now I'm going to click there twice to place that. Let's go around each of these, just clicking that. Front one there. Now they're slightly off center, so I'm going to select those and then move them back into center. So they're all exactly above those tables. Now, I need to move those down slightly. I'm going to have a look from the right-hand side. Make sure I take off the perspective, so make it orthogonal, and go into wireframe. I can see my pendants there. Now I know they are currently up at this level. There's about 1 meter worth of flooring there, so I need to bring these down. So on the Z offset, factoring the Z value here, I'm going to go -1 meter. You hit enter, and now I know that they should be sitting flush with the ceiling above. Now the benefit of putting the light source into a symbol means that if I need to change the value of these lights, I can do it with just one, and it will update all of the values that I put in. So I'm going to go activate camera view again, switch on shaded, and we can see now that we've got these light symbols with the light source, and they're all just shining nicely on top of these individual tables. If I need to make a change, I can go back to edit the 3D component of that symbol in the resource manager. And already my light source is selected. So on the object info, I can actually make changes. So if I wanted to change that color, we can do so. Give that a magenta look, just to make sure it's quite definite. And exit that. We can see that update instantly. Probably not the effect we're after, so I might go back in and just change that back to that nice, slightly off-white glow, like so. Okay, so that's the basic light features that we can use just to really get some imagery from our model. And just to show, if I go into a sheet layer that I prepared earlier, this is a viewport that I've taken from pretty much that view, and I've then added a background outside my model, and these are the light sources that we've used, and this is the effect that we're getting. So very quickly, our shaded render can help us to get some okay visuals. We can show off our space.